Hi everyone, my name is Cody, and as a part of an assignment for my Social Services 2375 class, I have compiled together a podcast comparing a couple different social service policies from two different volunteering locations, one of which I've done close to 50 hours with. The other one I've just done this research on. And so the first thing I'm going to do is walk you through these two different agency policies, kind of see how they shape access and services here in Hays County. And so the two policies I'm going over are the intake and eligibility policy from the Southside Community Center here in San Marcos. And that is a part of their homelessness prevention program. I'm also going to be talking about the eligibility affirmation policy used by Hays County Food Bank, a little more specifically their Bobcat Bounty Pantry. And even though these two agencies serve very different needs, with Southside being more on homelessness prevention and then Hays County Food Bank being on emergency food assistance, kind of the name, even though they are so different, the way each agency deals with this does reflect social justice in some way, and it does, or their different requirements and ways that they determine their eligibility does say quite a bit about their access, their equity, and how social services is able to respond to something like that, or how people in need are able to get the help they need through them. And so I'll be explaining how each policy works, what each one does, and most importantly, I'll be connecting them to the NASW Code of Ethics to kind of explain why these programs matter for social work practice. And so the first one, the Southside Community Center's intake and eligibility policy. I'm going to lay out kind of the first three steps and then explain what each one means. So the first one being the community inquiry and referral, leading to the initial screening, and then finally the intake appointment. And so what all that means is that during the initial screening stage, clients need to show that they live in San Marcos in one way or another, they reside within city limits. They also have to provide several additional documents, things like an eviction notice, a proof of income, verification of financial hardship, so something like a proof of a job loss or a medical note, something from a doctor, plus their lease agreement and photo IDs for every single household adult there, or every adult living in the household. And then, so after that, during the actual intake appointment, the case manager is going to review everything, go over the consent forms, explain all the rights, the responsibilities, the barriers of the program. Manager is also supposed to clarify the limits of what the program is able to actually do. Like I said, they also reserve a one emergency appointment per day for people who are less than 72 hours away from eviction. And so this policy definitely has some strong points. It 100% helps ensure resources go to people who are genuinely facing some sort of eviction. It's very structured, and it does make the program consistent and transparent. It's also supporting crisis intervention by offering that, like I said, that one emergency appointment per day. But there's also some drawbacks here. The amount of documentation required, it can definitely be overwhelming to people already in highly stressful times. Not everybody has access to this kind of transportation, internet, or the paperwork, especially during an eviction of all times. And the one appointment per day limit can definitely leave people without immediate help if they've already reached that limit. And so residency restrictions can also exclude households who live just outside the city limits. So unless you're within those city limits, you don't receive the same kind of help. And so there's policy is very organized, very protective, but it can definitely create some barriers. And then also looking at the Hays County Food Bank eligibility policy, the eligibility affirmation used by them in Bobcat Bounty. It's a lot simpler in terms of its layout. The qualifications are that you have a household income at or below 185% of the federal poverty level, or participate in programs like SNAP, TANF, SSI, Medicaid, or the National School Lunch Program, or are experiencing a temporary food-related emergency. So unlike Southside, this food bank does not require multiple documents. Clients can simply just sign the form affirming they meet one of these requirements. It makes it so much quicker. They're able to get it on the same day most of the time. The food bank also does serve a wider geographic area, anyone in Hays County, not just San Marcos, so the reach is much, much broader than that of Southside's. The trade-off being that the food bank does not really offer long-term case management or months of ongoing support. The focus is more on quicker, lower barrier to emergency food access. And so kind of looking at or comparing both of them, there are some similarities, but more differences. Both agencies use eligibility criteria to make sure resources go to people who need them the most. Both focus on basic needs based crises, stopping eviction in Southside's case, and then, in the food banks, more of, like I said, emergency food assistance. And both do have some sort of structure, some sort of consistency, and aim to prevent misuse while still helping households. But the differences here are a lot more standoutish. Southside's policy requires a lot of documentations, like I said, an eviction notice, an identification, lease, income verification, and proof of hardship, while the food bank relies mainly on just what they say their problems are, self-attestation, with very little paperwork. Southside is limiting these services to San Marcos residents, but the food bank is able to serve people across, like I said, like all of Hays County. Southside requires a scheduled intake appointment with a case manager, while, like I said, most of the time clients are able to get what they need within the same day. Another major difference is their level of support. Southside offers 2 to 6 months of case management, monthly check-ins, landlord mediation, and follow-ups. The food bank provides more of, like I said, immediate food support or immediate food relief without as much of a long-term case management. And so, in other words, Southside's providing more of an intensive support with strict eligibility, while the food bank provides lower barriered support with minimal follow-up. These differences show how each agency is balancing their accountability, and how they connect to our NASW Code of Ethics is more based kind of on how their policies carry out those core ethics. And so Southside's policy supports the value of service by working to prevent homelessness, but documentation requirements can kind of conflict with social justice here, since people with fewer resources or unstable situations may struggle to provide everything required. The limit of one emergency appointment per day can really conflict with dignity and worth of a person, because someone facing eviction might not receive help in time due to these scheduling limitations, of all things. Residency restriction may also create inequities. On the other hand, Southside's trauma-informed approach during intake supports the integrity, competence, and importance of human relationships. The case manager's role is to ensure clients understand the program and feel more supported. The food bank policy strongly supports social justice because it removes many of these barriers that typically stop people from getting any kind of help. Allowing self-attestation, serving a whole county, and keeping documentation light at all help reduce these inequalities. However, the lack of long-term services means the policy does not address deeper systemic issues that Southside's policy is attempting to. Together, these policies show different approaches to balancing fairness, access, and responsibility, and each kind of have their ethical strengths and limitations. And so just to kind of conclude that, comparing these two policies really has helped me at least see how these agencies shape things in different ways, have similar values and still shape it differently based on the people they're trying to serve. I know just from personal experience, Southside has been around for over 100 years. So they've always been there and for the community despite the limited reach, at least when compared to Hays County Food Bank. The food bank's policy is simple and accessible, but does provide short-term relief without extended follow-up. Southside's is a little more detailed and structured, offering long-term support, but also creating those barriers. Understanding these differences is extremely important for social workers because policy is everything. Anyone who gets help, how quickly they get it, and what kind of support they receive is future social workers evaluating in making and adjusting appropriate critiques is so important to help us advocate for systems that are both fair and accessible. And thank you.